We're starting the vlog with a visit to a provincial park. There's a small farm here. It was a beautiful day and it felt like we had entire fields all to ourselves. This cute trail was really nice to explore. There were little fairy houses placed all around. Some were quite intricate, and you could even open little doors. It was lots of fun trying to pick out where they might be. Back in the studio, I'm drawing a tempura shop that I came across during my visit to Kyoto. I liked the open structure of the building, allowing you to peek directly into the kitchen. My usual process is to start with a pencil sketch to ensure I get the perspective correct. I then outline with colored pencils. Would you be interested in seeing the pencil sketching process too? I want the walls to have a very smooth blended finish, so I'm using the wet on wet technique, which is applying water first to the paper before adding paint. I like to add in a secondary color to give it a bit more dimension and visual interest. For the yellow walls, I added a touch of turquoise, and the peach walls I added in some coral red. I'm switching to gouache for the ground as I wanted a more solid, opaque look. Now I'm adding in other gouache elements to the canopy and the signage. It helps to balance the overall painting because I think gouache evokes a heavier weight as it's more saturated and opaque. I really liked the various handwritten signage at the shop, especially the fluorescent menu strips that are so eye-catching. Drawing retro buildings are my go-to comfort type of art. I love spending time working out all the little intricate details and populating the scene with my characters. It usually takes me a few concentrated days to complete. It's been a long time since I switched out these frames. Let's update it with some of the latest illustrations I'm proud of. The paintings I'm displaying were both featured in a Draw With Me. Last month, we dropped by a local antique shop that specializes in furniture. I would love to own some vintage cabinets in the future. I appreciate the unique history of each object and signs of dedication to craftsmanship. I'm actually a big vintage toy collector, particularly for 60s Japanese tin toys, but I'll save sharing that for another time. Isn't this space so interesting? Look at all those chairs. There are so many ways of expressing the same basic form. Isn't it exciting that design is all around us? I'm doing a few illustrations from Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I tried to sketch out possible character designs on my iPad first. I felt the first few were too human-like, so I simplified the form further to something like a gummy bear or a honey bottle. I added a honey bottle cap as the hat for Baby Bear, and that inspired an entire unique backstory that they run a honey business. This time I'm working on a spot illustration. I started with a messy, rough sketch like this and then worked over that to create a more refined version. I then printed it out and transferred onto watercolor paper with my LED trace pad. I like to use Copic markers over watercolors for my human characters because I find it gives a smoother finish for the skin and hair. Adding the little blushing elements is always the fun part. I'm not sure what colors to use and I want to stick to a limited palette, so I'm doing color tests over my sketch to see what feels the most harmonious. After scanning in the hand-painted illustration, I further work on it digitally. I want to control the amount of texture that traditional paints produce, so I go back in digitally to tone it down. I mostly use this method of creation for my picture book illustrations. Usually I use a speckled chalk brush in Procreate to do a kind of airbrush effect to smooth out irregularities. I go back in with an eraser to clean up the edges. In this time lapse, you will notice that I redo the outline for the entire painting digitally. In the end, I decided a green background would really help anchor and pop the artwork. Next up is a spot illustration of Goldilocks trying out the Three Bears chairs. I had lots of fun designing bear-themed chairs and giving particular consideration to Goldilocks' expressions. hope you enjoyed this week's vlog, and thank you so much for sharing your time with me.